of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Kelly, if you could do attendance, please.
Larry Kidland,
Here.
Greg J,
Here.
Brandon Tanka,
Here.
Bryce Howell,
Here.
Scott Stierwald.
Here.
All right, additions and or deletions to tonight's agenda. I will start first. Item 7I, I would like to remove. And then add 7I, red flags, or red tags, I apologize. Item 9A, I would like to remove for tonight's meeting. Item 9C, I would like to remove for tonight's meeting. That's all I have for additions or deletions. Jason? Kelly? Council? Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval of minutes from the April 8th, 2025 meeting.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This will bring us to claims and transfers.
From the general fund, $193,045.64.
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
From water, $85,181 and a penny.
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
From wastewater, $81,710.35.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Payroll, $58,184.26.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Russ's Custom Welding in the amount of $4,100. This is for the evidence locker that was approved for the police department. The $3,980 was approved. There was an additional $120 because they had to relocate a light switch, so I'm just bringing it to council's attention.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wheeling Brothers invoice 2549 in the amount of $20,196. This is for sludge removal that we usually have to have a couple times a year.
Motion.
Okay, is there a second on that one?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
HSC pavement maintenance, invoice number 7268 in the amount of $2,550. This is for line striping the basketball court in the park.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Before we move on, Jason, is he getting us a quote for the, thank you. I was gonna ask if he was getting us a quote for the curbs on the sidewalks that are painted yellow as well.
I don't even live in the area.
Okay.
It's not mine.
Foyt's Contractors, invoice number 22570-11 in the amount of $4,856.75. This was, we actually received this exact amount from somebody else's insurance. They hit the wall up at Bennington Way. So we received that much from insurance, and I'm just asking to pay it back out for the repairs that were made.
Is that going to include fixing the, okay, perfect. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Eric said they like good board.
Water Solutions Unlimited, invoice number 7047748, amount of $4,731.36, and this is just routine chemicals.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have right now, thank you.
Mr. Hall?
You got your monthlies. I want to let everybody know we attended the IMA, which is the Marshals Academy, this last month. Reserve days, got all of our training up to speed. So we're on pace for a completed year on the training. The red tags, we've been actively working red tags throughout the town. They're now called orange tags. When we ordered them, they didn't have red anymore, so we had to go to orange. But they're sequential numbered. What we're running into, and I spoke with Jason about this, is a lot of the properties that aren't being tended to, it's hard to locate the people that own them now. For some odd reason, they've left the town for some reason, and they're hard to locate. And Jason's got an idea that I like, and we want to bring it to council's attention. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, and I probably need to get with Mr. Shagley on this, but I believe that we can set up a fund for yard maintenance that would get, it's not always fun to administer it, but where we would maintain yards that are not being taken care of. We still go through the process of red tagging it if they don't respond in 10 days or whatever we set up in the code, that we would be permitted to go in and mow the yard or weed eat or clean up messes or whatever. And then we would recoup the money, either put a lien on the property or municipal during the time of a municipal assessment there. At least when I was at Bainbridge, it was pretty successful. We recouped most of our money on, I mean, I don't remember ever not recouping anything, because at some point in time, that property will change hands and that lien will be on that property. But I believe that you have to have a fund, if I recall, specific to do that. So if we do pay for a property to be maintained, mowed, or weeded, whatever it may be, we would have to pay, obviously have to pay for that somehow. I could actually use my guys to do that maintenance. But, you know, what we've got right now, we've got multiple properties around town that we don't even know where these people are. And, you know, it's honestly not fair for those neighbors to have to live next to a house, and it brings down their values, and it's just not fair for people that live next door to it, to somebody that won't maintain their property. So.
The fund could become self-sustaining too, couldn't it?
It did, actually, when I was at Bainbridge, we probably made money. That wasn't the intent, but the cost, you want to make the cost high enough so that people don't just say, okay, well, I don't want to mow my property or maintain my property, let's just let the town pay for it, in hopes that they'll never have to pay it at all. Most people aren't going to do that. Generally, this was when really big back in the bank-owned property days. So back in 07, 08, when you had a lot of foreclosures, 09, you had a lot of foreclosures. And we set one up in Bainbridge at that time. But I believe, and I have to talk to Kelly about this, but I think we have to have a fund set up to pay out of that. Yeah, and that's what, we just talked about this, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it, Adam?
Day before, yeah, yesterday.
Do your guys have enough time?
I mean, Bradley, that's why I would just put him on that, that's primarily what he does. And I don't really anticipate it to be right now there are probably 4 properties, 4 yards, I mean, quarter acre yards with each road, I would say, would you guess?
4 or 5, yeah.
That we would probably, you know, ultimately, we still, I mean, like today, I made phone calls to people trying to track down some of these property owners, you know. That's the best way to try to do it, but sometimes you just can't. We've got 2 properties in town that have been disasters for 4 years, and I've dealt with them for every year for 4 years, and I found out the owner is, we believe, maybe in a nursing home in Greencastle. So you know probably getting that resolved is probably not going to happen. So really, the only option is for the town to maintain them and put a lien on the property. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I won't stop at this nursing home in Greencastle trying to get her to either sell the property or do whatever too, if she's not going to maintain it. It's not really our role, but at some point you have to step in and force the matter. You know, you still go through the proper procedure, just like you would with an abandoned vehicle or any other ordinance violation the town has. Try to go through those steps, but at some point, there may not be resolution where we would have to to take these steps. So-
See, a lot of the problem is we're tagging these houses and nobody's showing up and the door knockers are just sitting there rotting on the doors. So we're creating more trash than what's already there.
So I have to comment a little further. This is a very hot topic right now. Obviously, everyone's grass is growing, and there are, I think, more than 4 properties, but not by much, currently that have yet to have their first mow this season. What I would ask is if council chooses or decides to go this route, are we limited to residential, or do we include commercial in this? Because there is a commercial lot as well, I know, right in town that doesn't get mowed. And then do we have to amend or create a new ordinance for the direction that if council chooses to go this direction?
I have to look at what we have on the books now, but my guess is we'd have to amend it and enhance the procedures and policies as far as the timing, the liens, and whatnot.
I would like to see commercial in there, just not residential. I think it's only fair. If we're gonna hold one accountable, we need to hold everybody accountable.
At least when we did it in Bainbridge, it didn't matter whether it was commercial or residential.
I mean-
But I know you have to do it by ordinance because there is a fee, and it would have to be advertised. There's a little process. We
But-
just came up with this yesterday, so
Yeah,
we can have.
and I
something.
think it's a great idea, council.
There's one right across from my house that the whole house needs bulldozed, but it just, yeah.
So maybe if you can add that to your items to get done for us for next meeting in June.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I've got a question.
Yes.
If these people are not responding, is, the taxes, are they paying taxes? And are they foreclosing on them? Are they paying back taxes for somebody else to buy that property? And if you put a lien on it, then the purchaser is going to have to pay that lien.
Correct.
That's the whole premise.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the lien.
If I could show you, I would.
The purchaser doesn't pay the lien. The homeowner loses the revenue from the sale.
From the sale.
Because they paid the lien.
But if the county takes it over, if they're not paying their taxes, then the county takes it over.
County will never take it.
What?
The county would never take ownership of it.
Was she saying if they?
If the taxes are not paid,
Sell
you
But the
forfeit
county
that.
would- Correct, but it does not go to the county. You would purchase a tax, someone could potentially purchase the tax lien, but the county would never take ownership. Even after a period of time, if there's no one ever buys the tax lien, it goes to a certificate sale, and it's still sold back to the public,
Yeah, it goes to a sale, a real estate sale.
a certificate sale.
Yeah. But that lien that the town puts on them for mowing the grass, the purchaser would not have to pay for that. Am I right?
If it's sold.
If it's sold.
If it's sold, someone would, if you want free and clear title. Because somebody can buy a property with a lien and it can stay on there forever. It's just if they ever try to sell it, most people won't buy a piece of property that has a lien. Or if somebody's trying to get title insurance, they're never gonna be able to get title
But the
insurance
title
because
has,
there's a
the
lien.
lien will have to be satisfied.
If you keep paying, selling it for cash, and no one ever has to go to the bank, and no one ever wants the title insurance, if you just wanna, trust that it's gonna be okay, then yeah, collecting that lien is gonna be tricky. But eventually, someone's gonna wanna buy it and need a mortgage, and that'll pop up, and it'll be paid.
Yeah.
The
I
real
don't think it
problem,
would stand.
the more common problem is, I'm living in my house, I'm not cutting the grass, you guys are leaning it up, I die, my kids just move in and keep living there, they don't ever transfer it out of my name.
And they don't pay taxes.
Well, they'll pay the taxes because they want to keep the house, but because they never really officially transferred it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, there's no perfect way to collect, but the lien is a pretty good way of doing it.
We are spending a lot of man hours, resources on patrolling who has not mowed their yards. They're in direct violation of that ordinance, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, we've got more important things to be worrying about.
Mhm.
trying to operate and run a town. So we're just trying to recoup that at the end of the day.
Sure. I mean, I was just under the impression that you cannot get in touch with these people. The county, if they're not paying anything on their home or their property, then the county takes it over for failure of paying their taxes.
But they don't take it over so much as they sell it, and someone buys it. Very rarely does it end up back in the counties. Yeah.
Okay, it's all changed then.
Okay. You know the direction council would like to go.
Gotcha. Yep.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Jason?
First thing I'd like to say, it's Pacers 8, Cavaliers 11. Not that I'm watching anything.
Sorry, 7-17, so get on your horse.
I mean, be brief.
Yeah, Eric, the first few items are Eric, if you want him to address us quickly.
Please.
Would you mind going over the history of Okra and how it's helped benefit communities? I just go.
How about June?
How about you? Okay.
It depends. Could they be in the championship in June?
No.
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah. that's
So
when the NBA
we'll have to cross that bridge if and when we get to
We'll
it.
deal with that.
Yes.
Few updates on the normal projects we've been going through. Really no change on the water. We are waiting on B&T, the contractor, to come back when the ground is a little drier, to re-engage the bore of I-70 from the north side. Somewhat related to this project, and I do anticipate probably June is when he'll remobilize. We should be dry enough that they can restart the work then. Somewhat related to this project, and we did have a site visit with Okra today. We are applying for an Okra grant that would include a section of water main that would cover what is not being included in this project to close the loop back to the town's tank. So that will go in, I believe, in June, and we would get potentially awarded in August. So that's something that could follow up after this project. On the stormwater project, the contractor has remobilized. They have a couple punch list items to do with regard to paving, and they are finishing the change order work that was authorized. That includes a drainage outlet for Dreamway and Stardust Hills, some additional work on Doe Creek Drive, and then the work on Stardust Road. Their schedule is to have all this done by the end of next week. The grant deadline for work is the end of May, so they should be on track to hit that. What we will need to do is the grant administrator needs to submit a final pay application to Okra by the end of May. If we could have a motion that pay application could be signed by Brandon or Jason pending our review, because we'll need to do it before the next meeting. So if we could allow that to be approved, subject to our recommendation that all the work is acceptable. And you still have a warranty with the contractor for a year. So if there are things in the project that need fixed, they have to honor that for a year. So this would just allow us to close the financing piece out with Okra.
Good with that.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion with either Brandon or Jason's signature.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Okay. All in favor to that?
Aye.
Aye.
I've got another question if I could have it answered.
Go ahead.
You're talking about Dreamway. I noticed behind me, because I live on Stardust Way,
Okay.
I noticed that there's a front loader and some corrugated piping or pipe. Last year they went down beside, in between my house and the neighbor's house,
Correct.
clear back down to the road, I guess Dreamway.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning on doing anything down in between my house again?
No, this will extend where that pipe stopped across Dreamway and down to that outlet.
Okay,
So the water will have a dedicated place to go, because right now it discharges to those two vacant lots, which could be used at some point. This, since we had some extra money, this kind of closed and gets that water place to go.
yeah, I was told by another person that they were gonna redo what they did last year, and I said, you're kidding me.
No, that's not the case.
That's why I'm here, I'm finding out.
Should be good.
Yeah, Eric, to address probably a concern there were some people in that area that, when we had the 12-inch rain, and maybe you guys heard this as well, when we had the 12-inch rain a month ago, there was a structure on the opposite side of the road that did not handle all of that, but we also had that silt retention.
The
blanket or
sock to
whatever.
prevent the silt
Sock.
from getting in, yeah.
So, that was obviously their intentional, but it also prevented the rainwater from going
Getting
in
in
there,
there,
so.
yeah.
Once that grass is grown.
That'll all
it's
get
just
removed
the-
and it should function fine.
Correct.
There's still one on where they put the drain line there and all the straw has accumulated.
That's what we're talking about. When the grass gets up, we'll remove all of that, but we're required to have that there to keep the silt from going into the storm drain, so.
Yeah, the other sock was removed on the opposite, in front of my house. The drain.
We didn't remove it. I don't know who did, but.
Okay.
it
Mother
probably-
Nature may have removed it or a local. It's-
Local probably.
But that's one reason we had issues in that area, was because that sock was still there.
Okay, once they're complete and we have a pay request, I'll get with you, Jason, on getting that paperwork done. Then lastly, on the wastewater project, last time we talked about the extra work that we have initiated, or the contractor has begun work on with some of the extra contingency money. Of those items, A, D, and E are now completed, which is the smoke testing, the new RAS pumps at the plant, and the overhead door and building modifications at the plants. Items B, C, F, and G are still in progress, which is some additional closed-circuit TV, televising of sewers, lining, chemical feed improvements. Those may be complete. If not, they're pretty close. And then lift station 3 replacement. The smoke testing results, we've got preliminary data, and just want to give you guys kind of an idea of what you're going to see once we get our report from them and we tabulate it. But this is data from what the consultant gave us that was doing the smoke testing. These are all items throughout town where smoke was found exiting the sewer system, which means there is a hole in the system somewhere which could be a source for water to get in. We've tabulated those between town and private property. There's a lot of them where there's broken cleanouts, downspouts connected, broken laterals. That's on the private side. Those can be a little tougher to police, but we can talk about that as we go along. But on the town side, there are several. One, there's a broken culvert that's right over a sewer line that smoke was coming. There's some smoke coming out near some manholes, smoke coming up through the road over a sewer line. So there are some sources that I think we can do some good with that'll further help reduce some of the inflow and infiltration. So by next month, we'll have a final report on that. We still have, even with all this work we've authorized, we've got approximately $1 million left to do some additional work. So we will have some recommendations on how that can best be used from the smoke testing, and then also maybe some additional sewer lining.
If I could ask, if we could get that report sooner rather than later, to give council enough time to actually review it.
Yeah, I'd like to get to you before the June meeting, that way you can ask questions. We are waiting, they have 1 day left, we're waiting on that last day's data. So I should be able to give you a good table like this before June's meeting, so you can look at it.
Thank you.
So, other than that, the only other item I have related to wastewater is, in talking with Jason, POET has talked about potentially sending some additional flow, so we've looked at the plant and its ability to handle. It's basically an additional 160,000 gallons per day above and beyond what they're currently sending. We need another month or two's reports from the plant. Preliminary indications are, it looks like you could handle it. Flows are lower than what they were pre-project. But also in talking with Jason, we're also taking a look at the plant as a whole to see if we had to add some capacity, what is the most feasible way to do that? So at the next meeting, I'll also have that for you all to kind of take a look at. There are some feasible options to gain a decent amount of capacity without, building a whole new plant or building several new tanks. We can utilize what's there and maybe build, a new tank for for sludge, so we are looking into that, so that is something Jason's got us engaged in looking at, so.
That's encouraging.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really good for the town if that does come to fruition.
that's all I got, unless, Jason, you got anything else for me to add to that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The wastewater line extension, and what that is, and if you read the map draft, you probably read where we were in the meeting for the Putnam County Commissioners last week. We had a proposal from Aegis Engineering, we being longest in NAF Engineering, about doing a feasibility study for the town of Cloverdale to potentially connect Putnamville Correctional Facility, South Putnam High School, everything in between, back to the town of Cloverdale. So what we're envisioning is from Putnamville Correctional Facility along 40 to 231, South Putnam High School, back down south to Cloverdale. Now, there are a lot of factors involved in this. In conversations with Aegis, they seem to think that there could be some funds similar to the funds that we received to connect Lieber State Park to the town of Cloverdale's wastewater facility. They seem to think that those same funds might be available. Had conversation with them, maybe actually spoke to Eric about this as well. We don't know for sure whether it's a fundable project for them or not. Aegis asked us to sign I think you've got your packets too, a memorandum of understanding, or basically a feasibility study to take back to the Jim McGough with the state to start discussions about funding. This would be a very, very, very expensive project, I suspect. It could be very, very beneficial to the town years down the road. Putnamville would obviously be the biggest customer we would have at that point. That would probably be bigger than Poet, I suspect. I'm not sure what our capacity is at the plant to handle all of that. I think that would be part of this project as well, and we, Eric could help us with some numbers on what it would take to be able to handle a customer like Putnamville and South Putnam. South Putnam would be substantially smaller, I suspect. But there are some other businesses along through there as well. Putnamville Speedway, Putnamville State Police Post, residences all along the way. You've also got homes along 231, a couple businesses along 231 as well. This is very ambitious. I did meet with the commissioners last week. They seemed eager to participate. They did not give a dollar amount on what they would participate with regards to the Aegis contract. Aegis gave me a not to exceed of $12,500. Now, in that commissioners meeting, I kind of got the feeling that they would be willing to split that cost with us. There was no formal action on that, but all three commissioners did express interest in this because this does benefit not just the town of Cloverdale, but it benefits the county, potentially benefits the school corporation as well. So you do have it in your packets. I just, ultimately we're going to have to go back to the commissioners if you decided you wanted to partner with the commissioners on this. It would be $6,250 the town if we split that, and that's kind of the way they led it to me. But that would be up to you guys to decide, and we could take a proposal back to them. I'd never made any type of commitment to them at all, financially. This is potentially huge, but there's also potential it might not happen.
Council? Questions?
It's my understanding that Putnamville Correctional Facility is the only correctional facility that is not on municipal sewer.
And I think you told me at some point they're going to be forced.
Who I would see forced is South Putnam High School. I
That's
could
what it
see
was,
them
South Putnam.
probably being required to do something.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm really surprised it hasn't happened yet. I mean, Eric, you're probably seeing some of that.
The state's always pushed for regionalism on the sewer. They don't want 50 plants or hundreds of plants out there. They'd rather have less they have to regulate, less they have to worry about.
It's something they favor. The money's a little tighter than it was when we were going through the lever, with what the state has for things like this, but, yeah. There's still potential out there. Yeah.
I mean, I think on the revenue side for us, long-term, it's a no-brainer.
The other thing I will say is, and this is why I talked to Eric about this, we have some other potential economic development potentially coming this direction. One, if we start taking 200,000 gallons from Poet, that's going to reduce our capacity substantially. That's why I just asked him if he would start looking at what it would take for an expansion. If Poet, obviously the revenues would go up substantially, and it's possible that could fund an expansion that we need. It's possible that the state would assist with paying for expansion of our sewer plant too. So just lots of questions that I really have no idea. All this agreement is allowing them to do the legwork to determine if it's feasible, if the state would participate.
A lot of times how these would work is if the state chose to participate in this, there would be a cost to get all of the sewage to your system. And then there would be what's called a tap-on fee for those entities that would cover your costs of expanding your plant to have the capacity to take all that in. So, if this study went forward, what I would assume is they would develop a plan to collect the wastewater from all those facilities, get it to the town, then they would provide the town saying, if all this came in, it would be X amount of flow per day, then we would in turn need to determine how to get that capacity at the plant, and that would be the other number in this whole project. You'd have the collection and conveyance to get it here, and then you'd have your work here within your system on the plant.
So if you remember last month, I made the comment to you and Jason, in Jason's office, that there's going to come a time where we have to talk about plant expansion or a new plant. I didn't think it was going to be this soon. Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Responsible growth. Council, it's my opinion that we take the risk for the 6250 as long as we get the formal agreement from the commissioners to cover the second half for this Aegis contract.
No, I would agree. I mean, and it might not be in any of our lifetimes, but at some point in time, Indianapolis and Terre Haute are going to touch, and the town can only benefit from that. So I'm 100% in agreement, and do we need to make a motion for that? I'll make a motion that we cover our half as long as the commissioners will cover the other half.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And with that, I do want to say thank you to Eric. Obviously, this is a competitor of HWC, so very generous of him to speak on that. And, I've been happy with their work, and with the rest of the so we definitely consider them for other projects down the
He got my blocks fixed, so I'm real happy with that.
The next item on the agenda is, still in my business?
Yes.
Monon Avenue. I know I had conversations with each of you last week. We did get the appraisals back on the parcel on Monon, actually the two parcels on Monon. One is the lot right along Lafayette Street in Monon, and then there's just a little sliver where our street goes through somebody's private property. All of that combined takes up 3 of the 5 total parcels that we need to eventually redesign and rebuild Monon Avenue, which is kind of a long-term plan I think we've had. We did get 2 appraisals on that. One was $22,000, the other was $30,000. So the average was $26,250. That was right. Sorry, it's on my desk. I think it's $26,250. $26,000. So if we're going to proceed with the purchase, I mean, I'd be glad to answer any questions with regards to that. There would be a few expenses associated with closing, but it's going to be pretty minimal.
Council, if you recall, we gave Jason, I don't know if it was last month or a few months ago, the approval to move forward with acquiring these lots for the Monon project. If you recall, just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second part of Monon Avenue is the road repair. At the last meeting, we had presented a quote for you to what it would cost to repair to get us through for what I'm projecting 2 years. I've since met with Brad Folk with the town. We have gone out there and we have decided we're going to try, and I'm not making any guarantees of this. We're going to try to use the Durapatch. If you remember the Durapatch machine we've not used it for quite some time, but it's more of a chip and seal type process. We're going to try. We got it. The guys had it out today. We put new oil in it, trying to get all the materials we need to try and do Monon Avenue and at least make it usable for 2 more years. Not making any guarantees that it's going to work, because that street's bad. It really is. And the sides are falling off, and I'm not sure how that emulsion and rock will stay on. But we're going to try. Obviously, the quote was $18,000 too, and we're going to try to avoid paying that. But bear with me. I may bring this back to you. So I have not gotten a different quote. Another quote. That's what you asked me to do. But I'd like to try this first, and if it doesn't work, we may come back to you. So just wanted to update you on that. Trailers. We have currently 4 trailers at our utility building. There are a couple things I'd be interested in doing. And I did get some trade-in values and the purchase of a new trailer to replace we actually have 4 trailers, but 3, actually one I don't even want to consider a trailer. It's in such bad shape, I don't think it has any value whatsoever. But I'm thinking the trade-in values seem pretty low. We might be better off if we just declare them surplus and were to sell them outright. One is an enclosed trailer that we've not used in 4 years. It's a pretty nice enclosed trailer. Then we've got a flatbed trailer, and then we also just have a little utility trailer that we use for the lawnmower. That's the one I think has no value. So I have had conversations with Detro Trailers up in the northern part of the county. That's where we bought the 2019 Liberty trailer from. Actually, the Carpet trailer as well. About trade-ins, the enclosed trailer, they gave me a trade-in value of $900 to $1,100. I think it's probably got more value than that if we sold it. But I'm just kind of letting you know that I'm having these conversations. If that's something you think we can do, there's no reason to use the carpet, to have the carpet trailer. There's no value to us. Use value. And then one of the flatbed trailers, there's really no need. We only need one to haul our equipment. So I'd like to look at possibly trading or selling one of those. And then the little utility trailer that we use to move the lawnmower, it just needs to be, I mean, we can sell it to you if somebody will give us a couple $100 for it. But I would like to replace that one. That's the one I would like to go, and I've priced one at $2,500, which is under my threshold, to replace that. The little utility trailer, we were going to have to do some welding to the tailgate, the drop-down tailgate. It's not, the electric on it isn't working, the lights aren't working on it, just things we need to have working. And it probably makes more sense just to buy your $2,500 trailer than it does to make the repair stuff. So, not necessarily asking for anything on this yet. I just want to kind of just bring this to your attention that I'm kind of working on that. I can talk to vendors as well, but just wanted to kind of get that on your radar that I'm considering some of these moves. There's no reason for trailers to be sitting down there and just wasting away. Okay. The next item is Buckeye Power Sale. These are 2 quotes for repairs on generators that we have. They're both pretty salty, both in the $4,000 range to get the repairs. If you remember last year, we signed a service agreement to have them inspected 2 times a year and do minor service. When they come out and do the service, they also do the inspections. And these are their recommendations for repairs to 2 of our lift stations. I will say that it doesn't surprise me because I think we neglected those for several years because we didn't have a service agreement, and I'm not sure if any service was provided or conducted on any of them. But that is pretty salty, you know, that's $8,000 worth of work right there. My one argument is we're still under the reorder right now, and probably makes sense. I can only assume that those are repairs that need to be done. I don't know, you might have some.
Is it something that could be covered with our contingency funds?
It is.
It would save you from using operating funds for it.
We can go that route.
I think so. I mean, those funds are for wastewater use. We would have to go through and just, the worst case is we have to do a PER amendment, which is a little documentation to allow it to be used for that, which we're gonna have to do for most of the things we're using extra money for, but I don't see why we couldn't. I mean, I would try that before using operating funds.
As long as it doesn't come out of the back truck.
I'm still holding that.
Okay.
Then it is my recommendation, council, that we try that option first. I agree 100% with that.
You give me the information, I'll investigate it.
Then I'll make a motion to,
We're not gonna make a motion because we're gonna hold off on the quotes at this point.
Yeah.
Richard said we need.
No, to add them to the list of the.
He doesn't even know if he can.
Just send me what the work is and let me
Then we'll
investigate
approve
it.
it, okay.
Give me a phone call with the state and see if they would fund it.
I feel very confident it can be something. They are. Well, they are both sewer. We repaired the water, didn't we? Tell me I'm wrong.
One is the water plant.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
No,
One of them
it's
is the
two.
water plant. We did a small repair on a sewer, and then we had another one for $4,000 for sewer.
Lift 2 is one of the quotes, and the water plant is the other quote.
Correct, okay. Well, we would only be able to do the sewer out of the contingency. But we could do the other water. We'd have to use that out of operating.
So you need approval to approve the water one,
Not the sewer.
not the sewer one, because we're gonna see if we can go an alternate route on that. That's what council needs to vote on tonight, is the one for water.
And I apologize, it just hit me that was possibly the water plant.
It's gotta be done. Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Okay, Kelly?
You have all your monthly reports in your packet, and everything is looking good so far. And then I would like to update you a little bit on the state legislature. They did a lot in the last couple months, and there are several things that are going to affect us, some in the short term and then some potentially in long term. The first one is actually some good news. House Enrolled Act 1461 had to do, they changed the CCMG, which is our community crossings. Typically it's a 75-25%, so we have a 25% local match, and they lowered that to a 20% local match. So we're going to community crossings, that will be beneficial to us. SB1, which I'm sure everybody has heard about, is property tax reform. I've got some numbers. This came from the Office of Fiscal Management Analysis. It's their fiscal impact statement. Specifically, they listed the town of Cloverdale on there, and our revenue from property tax, according to this document, now everything's questionable, but will not be less than what we are receiving this year in 2025. It won't be as much as, it won't be a complete 4% growth like we've been seeing, but estimates say we'll probably receive a 1% growth in 2026 for property tax revenue. In 2027, it'll be back up to 5.1%, and then 2028, 3.9%. So according to their estimates, it's not going to hurt us that bad. It will impact our TIF a little more, and I'll go over that with the redevelopment commission at their next meeting. Ultimately, I think we're gonna be fine. We just have to make sure we're sticking to our priorities. We're still moving towards our goals, and it just might take a little bit longer to get there than what we had thought, but I think it's gonna be okay.
I want to real quick go on record and thank our representative for Bobear for fighting for Cloverdale. He knows the stuff that we got going on here with the arena and all that. He was one of the co-chairs on that bill, so just want to say thanks to both for that.
Let's see. Also, House Bill 1001, they reworked the Governance of Trust Indiana. AIM, that's where we have a lot of our money invested in right now. It's been very beneficial to the town. AIM didn't seem to think that that would affect the investment side of things, but I'm definitely going to keep watching that because they've really done some changes with that. House Enrolled Act 1033, it just made some changes to retainage amounts, and that has to do with our projects, and I'm sure Eric and HWC will take care of that when the time comes. House Bill 1509 made a new law that every agenda for all towns appointed boards, that would be our redevelopment, park, storm, all of those, is required to have each member's name on every agenda, who appointed them, and their term limits, and that also has to go on the website. So I'll be adding that to our list of things and letting the secretaries of those boards know that has to be on there. Senate Bill 95, this is an interesting one for the police department. It allows us to get reimbursed by a percentage from another town or the state police department for the training cost if an officer leaves within 3 years of us sending them to the academy. And it also allows us to require police officers, when we hire them on, to sign a contract stating if they leave before 3 years after completing the academy and they go to a private employer, that they're responsible for reimbursing a percentage to the town. So that was a good one, I think, for our police department. House Bill 1427, that just allows budget continuances to receive 80% of normal. So if you do your budget and you don't cross an I right, cross a T right or dot an I, typically you can go back to your prior year's budget. They've changed that, so now you get 80%. So essentially you'd be punished 20% of what you have. So hopefully we'll never have to use that, but punishment in this isn't as bad. They've changed some requirements on food and beverage reporting. Currently, I have to report annually every check that's written out of the food and beverage fund and what it was used for, and they've added additional reporting on top of that. So I will be doing more reporting on that. They've also, House Enrolled Act 1135, they've added 5 more reasons for executive sessions, some things that were pretty interesting. They've allowed us to do executive session for employee healthcare options with respect to special exceptions to coverage, employee-specific compensation or employment matters of individual employees, employee handbook changes, review of negotiations on the performance of publicly bid contracts, and also solicitation of contract proposals containing a bidder's proprietary information. So still no decisions can be made in executive session, but that allows us some more options to discuss things privately that shouldn't be made public just yet. The last thing is House Enrolled Act 1459. It requires water and wastewater utilities not under the Indiana Regulatory Commission jurisdiction, which is us. It requires us to submit an asset management report once every 4 years to the IURC. Now, if we're going in, when we do IFA loans and things like that, we have to do that anyways. But if we're not doing that, this just requires us on both counts, water and wastewater, to have to do an additional report and give it to the IURC. That bill also requires the governing body of the utility, which in our case is you, the town council, you have to complete training once every 4 years on this. So as more details come out, I'll have to do that too. So that's all I have for now. Those are just some ones that pertained to us.
It's a lot of information.
Thank you, Kelly.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. This will bring us to ordinance 2025-5. This is a first reading for the solicitation. If there are no questions, I would ask council for a motion on this one.
I will make a motion and a motion to waive the second reading. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This will bring us to ordinance 2025-6. This is a first reading on the building code repeal as well. If there are no questions, I'm looking for a motion on this ordinance.
Motion to read the second, or waive the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This will bring us to readdressing. Jason?
Yeah, and I appreciate Scott Wall bringing me the street name changes that we had proposed. I did try to reach out to I did reach out to him, and I was successful, but there is a new president of the Stardust Hills Heritage Homeowners Association, sorry. I'm used to the Heritage Lake. The Stardust Hills Homeowners Association, Jeff Pfaff, and I spoke with him today. I'd really like to take all this by him. I have not gone over any of this addressing with him, of the proposals that we've got for some of the street street name changes. So, but I did have a good conversation with him today. So hopefully I'll next.
Did this come from the committee? These proposed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was not part of the committee. The previous president of the HOA was on the committee. The current has not, but to my knowledge, he's not familiar with any of this. So I just think it's appropriate to let them at least have their opinion heard before we do anything. So I've got everything ready to go. Hopefully we'll have that for you next meeting.
Okay. Anything else, Jason?
We're getting beat. We're down by 17.
Okay.
It's a problem.
Council, any comments? Anyone in the audience?
How many officers do we have?
Mr. Hall?
5 full-time,
Five.
8 reserves.
Okay. Can I ask for more patrolling on Stardust Way between Stardust Road and Robert Weiss Burma? There's a lot of kids that walk up and down Stardust Way. And there's a lot of idiots that use that as a shortcut racetrack.
Right. Yeah, we can add that to the list.
I'd appreciate it because I'm scared to death that one of these kids are gonna get, well, an adult too. You know, so it's highly traveled.
I do want to, I get there's places in town we probably need to patrol better, but the fact that our police department in a town of our size has the arrests and the stuff we do, like kudos to
Oh,
Sergeant Bull
absolutely.
and all that. I just want to make that known. The fact that we have the police department we have in a town this size is incredible.
You meant Marshall.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anything else? All right. This meeting is adjourned.
Solicit.
What's the end of the